Project. My name is Ron. I am the host and creator of the Canadian Maker Project. Once again, we have Barrett, who has been walking us through this. So we're gonna do this a little bit more different. We're gonna be changing a lot of things around for this, and we'll get into that a little bit after the show. But first, let's talk about what we worked on. So we built the hammer, and he sent me the piece to go test it. Well, it failed miserably. And then he figured out what he did wrong. So I'm going to throw this over to Barrett. We're going to load up his screen for Fusion 360, and we're going to go through this. So, okay, Barrett, what the heck happened here that we need to know about?
Well, this wasn't entirely unexpected. I did figure that there was going to be a tolerance problem, but the first thing to try was to try it out just printing as it was, which I kind of expected the result we got. It was too tight. So we need some clearance in there. And actually, there's already a really good video on how to do this, which I was actually just playing around with, trying to apply to my design. But because of how I clipped off these edges here with the fillet, the chamfer command, it doesn't want to apply. Part of it worked. So if we go back and we look at our original, here, let's get it loaded up. So our original file, we had a fairly tight fit. I'm trying to get it to approximately the same. Look about the same between the two of them.
Yeah.
Kind of looks about the same. So the original file here was actually a little bit too tight. And so what I've done here, which you can't actually see in the new modified version, so I'm just going to rid of it. I'm not going to save the changes there. I'm going to reopen it. So now this should be the original file, exactly the same as we were just looking at. So we don't need that anymore. All right. So what we need to do here is apply a little bit of tolerance isn't the right word, clearance to allow this to fit a little bit better. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off by selecting the face, and again, because I put this wonderful chamfer on here, I have to hold Control and select this face as well. And then I'm going to use the Q command, which is going to give me the ability to offset a face. And I'm simply going to put in -0.1, and that just chopped -0.1 off that face. Now we still have to do the underside face as well. So again, the Q command, -0.1. And now we've got one more problem here. We have to do this front. Oops, not that edge. We need to do these. Boy. Face. Thank you.
Well, let me guess. Q -1?
-0.1. Oops. Yep. Now, the last step to this is to actually round off this face here, which I can't do because I applied this chamfer up the top here, which gave us a nice, easy fit for putting our bolt in place. But if I wanted to do this right, I would need to remove that and start over. And that would be easy enough, but I would just chamfer these edges over to give it a nice round fit, and then we could do the same on the inside of the hammer head itself. So if we re-enabled the actual hammer, oops. Oh yeah, because this was not ever meant to be the full hammer head anymore. This is sectioned away for our modded print. But if I wanted to turn this off, I would need to apply that radius to the inside, the fillet.
Okay.
inside of here on this face.
Ooh.
Which doesn't want to let me select. Okay, the easiest way to do this would be...
You can't just make it just a thread show only.
Well, actually, I don't even need to do what I was just about to do. All I need to do is show my origins, and I can do... Where's the section? Section analysis.
Now, could we just delete the threads that are already there and put in new threads?
We could, but at this point, is it really worth it? So where I would need to apply that radius would be here. Oops. That was oops.
Interesting.
Yes. So we'll go back and we'll put that section analysis back on, and I just zoomed out enough that I could select a face.
Oh, there we go. Now we can see it. So how in the heck did you get into that mode?
So that I simply used. First thing I did is I came up here and I tried to make my origin visible, which it wasn't. As soon as I went into section analysis, it made that not visible anymore. But it's under inspect section analysis, and then okay. I just highlighted the plane that I wanted. So if I want to turn that off, I can just again, I want to remind everybody, Fusion 360 is not my first CAD software, and it's actually one I have not had any formal training in. I have had formal training in 4 different CAD suites, but in Fusion 360, I'm entirely self-taught, and as you can see, I haven't been using it an awful lot lately.
Well, let's face it, your first love is really SolidWorks.
Oh God, no! Let me kill SolidWorks. No, SolidWorks is a very powerful program. There is a reason why it is the industry standard. It's good software. I have a few beefs with it. No, my favorite would be Inventor, which is made by the same people who make Fusion 360, but there are some fundamental differences. Inventor is the product that is kind of in some equivalency to SolidWorks, but SolidWorks is just it dominates the market.
Well, let's just put it this way: if I had the money to invest, and we could do this, we can download SolidWorks. It is free now.
Yes, no,
for designers,
you can get a free license, which I actually need to do. I should have. I probably could have completed my CSWP. There are several certifications for SolidWorks. The first one is SolidWorks Certified SolidWorks Associate (CSWA), which is actually quite easy by all accounts to acquire. It basically indicates that you have some knowledge of the software. At the end of my program of studies, I really probably could have qualified for the CSWP. I just didn't actually complete it at that time. I had some software difficulties, which is part of the reason I hate SolidWorks. With a bit of a passion. SolidWorks licensing. I can tell you that there wasn't a single class that went by in college that somebody didn't have some kind of a license issue. And we could be using SolidWorks and it would seem like everything is fine, and then when we go in to start doing FEA analysis or CFD analysis, so finite element analysis or computational fluid dynamic analysis, there's another stage of license application at that point, and it was just constant. The number of times that we had problems, and they really have a tight rein on that, and understandably so. I think it is expensive, powerful software, and they're trying to control, but just the headaches. My other minor beef with SolidWorks, if you're using SolidWorks all the time, it is powerful. It is a great piece of software, but it's very iconography driven, which is actually brilliant from a standpoint of not having to translate your user interface for different languages. But the iconography is a little over the top, I think. If you use it all the time, it's fantastic. One of the reasons I like Inventor better is Inventor is fantastic if you put it down for a little while and come back to it. Things are labeled pretty well. So it's like, oh, yeah. That's how I do this. It's like, it's easier to pick back up if you've been away from it for a while. Whereas if you've forgotten the iconography for something because you haven't used it in a little while, SolidWorks can be a bit of a pain. Don't get me wrong, very, very powerful software. My other beef is I find SolidWorks to be a little bit unstable. It really, really, really uses your system resources to the max. It is very powerful software, but if your computer is in any way, shape, or form not up to what it's demanding, you're done. You're just done. And you're in for a hell of a ride. It's good software, but you need to have a system that's up to spec. Actually, well above spec is what I would recommend. And you need to put the hours in with it.
Oh no, I can hear you on that.
It's something that I absolutely in my professional career will use again. I have no doubt about that. It's good software. I just through some dealings with the parent company that Dassault Systems and the license stuff, I just have a bit of a distaste for the company and the brand. But the software is undoubtedly powerful. It's fantastic. It's an industry leader for a reason. But there are other industries out there. There are other things that are very popular. If you're really heavily into aerospace, you will probably see CATIA. There's PTC Creo, which I also learned a little bit of. It was a little bit older version of PTC Creo. I think it was PTC Creo 3.0 that we were using. And I found Creo to be a little bit more temperamental. It actually forced me to change my workflow a little bit in SolidWorks and Inventor. And I showed a little bit in one of the earlier live streams that I will quite often make one sketch and extract a bunch of features out of that. And I found that Creo didn't like that as much. I ran into more problems, and it actually caused me to change my workflow and do more individual sketches because I found it was just less problematic. But again, that was a little bit older version of Creo at this point, so we're not necessarily talking apples and apples with the latest versions. There's Creo, there's CATIA, Siemens NX. I've not used, but I've done AutoCAD for 2D and 3D. I don't recommend the 3D to anybody unless you're in for a lot of pain, torment. You can do it. But the reason you want to use a professional 3D CAD software is anything that you can do three-dimensionally in AutoCAD, you can do probably 10 times faster in SolidWorks, Inventor, Fusion 360 because they're designed from the ground up to be 3D. They just handle it differently. But it was good information. It was good learning structure to learn that. So we learned AutoCAD first, AutoCAD 2D, then we did 3D, then we jumped into SolidWorks. And the jump from AutoCAD to SolidWorks was painful. I would say honestly, but by the end of SolidWorks, we were quite comfortable with it. And then when we went into Inventor, it was a breeze. It was like, oh yeah, I know what you're doing. And PTC Creo was just kind of the icing on the cake. And I chose that program partly because of the exposure to all these different pieces of software. So in Fusion 360, I might not be really fast yet. I'm not super proficient, but I can figure out what I'm doing. I can find the features and use them, because I've had to do it several times before with different pieces of software. And there are a lot of commonalities and similarities here, but having had to work out how to make the thread tool happy in 3 different 3D CAD software packages in SolidWorks, Inventor, and Creo, figuring out how to do it in a fourth is like, well, there's going to be enough similarity there that I can figure it out, or I can probably find a video on YouTube. It's similar to, a lot of people may not know, I had a television broadcasting background, but first year lecture, here's the basic components of a switcher. You've got your fader modules, you've got your bus bars, and it doesn't matter whether you're talking about a switcher this big or one that's, half a mile long. They're all going to have those same basic features. So being able to break it down and understand how those features work, you could walk up to that huge switcher and not be intimidated by it. And I was sort of looking for that same approach when it came to CAD software. So that was part of why I chose this program.
Okay, we kind of got a little bit off topic.
We're off topic, but anyway. Fusion 360 is not my first here. There is going to be a way to get out of this. I just assumed it was going to be escape, but apparently it is not.
I just made this bigger so people can see what you're talking about here.
Yeah. Well, so I've got this section view turned on, and there's probably a simple way to go back to regular view here.
Yeah, but don't you want this view so you can get the upper, lower, and the middle?
Yeah.
Facial?
So what the section view just did is it basically cut it in half so that we could see it. So if I rotate this, there's where the section view. And the section view, it sectioned it where it did because I selected this plane, which sectioned it there. And I'm just having some difficulty figuring out how to turn off the section view here, but it's probably right in front of my face somewhere. Viewports, look at. Instruction sketches.
Okay, it's gone.
That's different. And this isn't entirely surprising. So this can be section view can be funny in most CAD software. Huh. That is interesting. Now, there, if you wanted to see our now remember we did not actually align these properly.
Okay.
And it's just because the bolt is rotated, so it's not actually aligned with the with our nut essentially.
In that view, it does look aligned. Oh, that's the inner view. Never mind.
Yeah. No. As soon as we do that, we see the intersection. But if we rotated this, probably about 90 degrees or 90 or 180 degrees, it would line up. But I cannot figure out how to turn off the section view. That's interesting. It's usually just a toggle. Going back to... Nope. Wow. Well, thank you, Fusion 360.
What does it do?
I just am not sure how to turn off the section analysis.
It should be like an undo.
Yeah, no, and it normally the toggle as an on-off, and I'm, you know what? There's a really easy way to do this.
Just close and go back in.
Yeah, it works.
When all else fails, hit escape.
Yeah. The downside of that is we didn't save anything, so we would have to redo our mods again. So I can make those mods just doing those face offsets and send that to Ron for test print in the future. So one of the things that Ron wanted to work on.
Oh, we're going to go into that now. Okay.
Yep. And I will figure out how to turn on and off that section view. So I did a little bit of work here on fonts because Ron was interested in doing a little bit different version of his on-air sign.
Well,
so I played around with.
Yeah, I should specify. So let me just go into here and I'll go to side view here.
Yep. Yeah. Let Ron show you what he's after.
So this was a print that I have on air. The idea of this was I was looking at this and I thought this would be kind of, now this goes back to my ham radio stuff, which I don't know if I've ever showed you this, Barrett, but I designed that in just having some fun in Tinkercad and built that in Tinkercad.
Yep.
So I can easily update it.
And some people here may not know what that VA3 is all about.
Yeah, VA3 is my section for amateur radio. So if we get amateur radio call signs, we get call signs dedicated to our area where we are. So VA or VE is mostly used in Ontario. Used in Canada, but there's also VO and VA. Oh, sorry, VO and V something else, but that's for the Northern Territories. But again, off topic here. So my province is considered the third province, so they call it VA or VE, and then number 3. The next 3 set is my number is the letters I can pick from a list of the system. So as a joke, I went looking to see if I was looking for my own call sign. I was looking for VE or VA RJM. Couldn't find it. Fine, it's been taken. So I started searching around through the VAs for the province of Ontario, and all of a sudden I say VA3 FUC. I'm like going,
yeah.
Hello. And so I called my my president, who is president of the club. He went, he saw. I'm like, am I reading that right? He's like, if you do not take that for your call sign, I am going to buy it. I have $60 right here. I am going to buy that call sign.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, okay, I know what I have to do. Went, wrote the test, got VA3, F, U, and then C. Otherwise known as Foxtrot Uniform Charlie, which I have to use all the time. But anytime I'm on HF, I always use my phonetic call sign because it's easier for people to hear it on when you're doing when you're on HF, because HF has a lot of noise in it. You'd be surprised how many people love my call sign. I get so many comments on it. It's amazing.
I'm actually surprised they allowed it. It's almost like the license plates never ever do this, but in some places they've allowed people to get the license plates no tag or no tags. You don't want that, because that's actually something when the police find a vehicle on the side of the road and it has no license plate on it, they type in the license no tag or no tags. So or some variation on that theme, like they'll have a normal default that they use to indicate that the vehicle doesn't have license plates on it. If you go and get that as a license plate, you have no idea how many tickets you're going to get. And it's a true story. Like, you can look on YouTube, you'll find some people that have that. So there are just some crazy inappropriate tags and handles out there, and I cannot believe that they allowed you to, and put that on the list as a call sign that you could have.
Well, believe it or not, I can pay $25 and I can get a license plate with my call sign on it.
Oh, I know.
I'm just wondering how I'm going to get it.
Well, and because you've got that nobody else is going to get that. Nobody else can get that because they don't have that call sign.
Exactly.
So it's basically reserved until you have a use for it. But,
Yeah, but it should be interesting to see if I can get it. You know, they might say,
yeah.
"Well, it's considered rude." Then why would you give it to me?
You know, sometimes our wonderful governments will do things that just don't make sense.
Yeah. But
Um,
anyways,
yeah.
so this just says on air. The idea was to take the on air completely off
Mhm.
and then put in the call sign instead.
Oh, that's what you're after. Okay, I thought
Yeah.
you just wanted to remake the on air with a little bit different font. Mhm.
No, I was thinking, like I'd like to learn how to put that font in there
Mhm.
and be able to change it so that anytime I need it for a different call sign, I can easily
Yeah.
put it in there.
Oh, so you're planning on having a bunch of call signs? No, you're talking about making them, I think. But,
Well, believe it or
so,
not, I've had people request.
so
I've
the
had 10
sign
requests for these so far.
that makes sense. Now, this on air sign is basically this is more of a broadcast on air sign to notify people not to walk in to your studio while you're
Oh,
recording a voiceover or something like that. To do this for a radio room is a little strange,
believe
but
it or not,
you
it's
can do
kind of
whatever
like
you want.
it's just for
It's
it's
for
just for
fun.
that ham that has nothing that signifies their call sign.
Mhm.
It's one of those type of things. So let's get back to the design then. Oop.
So I went and I figured out how to get some fonts in here. Not all fonts will work particularly well in Fusion 360. The way that it handles fonts, it technically does use true type fonts and open type fonts, but not all of them will register or work properly, and you kind of have to look at them. But I did find a series of potential fonts that I was able to extrude and get to work. So um, there is one option which I kind of like, and the reason these have to be stencils is because we're trying to do if Ron shows the original again here, it's cutouts. If we don't use a stencil font, the center will fall out and so forth. So this one here probably wouldn't be terribly strong because it would only
So
be supported from the
if you look
bottom
at
of
the
the
O,
yeah
it has
yeah
a peg here and a peg there.
to hold the center in place.
Exactly.
Now, this particular font would not be very strong because you can see it would only be supported from the bottom in some places, but it is a
Yeah.
particularly interesting looking font. So I went and got it. I've got another one here, which is kind of a digital look. It's kind of neat.
Mm,
Um, these are all the font. That's a very
that's the
more.
one. That's the stencil font.
That's actually this is more of a military style stencil. So this is a classic stencil. The name of this font is Linsec. Um, And then I've got Filamente, which is a little bit more of a
Oh, I like that one.
modern. Yeah, that's kind of nice. I like that. Neo Latina. Um, this one actually won't work.
No, not
The
for the
O,
A and not for the O.
the A would be fine. The O would
Oh,
break.
I see it now in the A. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's actually a no go. That one. Um, I'm not a huge fan of this one. It's
Nah,
clean and it's condensed, but I'm not a huge fan. Perfect X.
that's kind of interesting.
It's kind of neat, but it's got the same problem as the other one. It's only supported from the bottom on the O,
Yeah.
and it's a little bit chunky. And then the last one is Cutouts, which is again, it's very similar to the Lintsec.
Yeah.
It's just more condensed. I think this would probably be a little bit better choice, although it depends on whether or not you like that kind of compressed A there. Lintsec's a little bit more
I don't know.
class.
What would my call sign look like then?
Well, we can absolutely try and change those. Let's go in here. Let's go to the sketch. Yeah, edit sketch, dummy. So if I edit sketch, double click on the. Oh, wait a minute. This is one of the ones we decided we were not going to use.
Yeah, but wouldn't it change all of them if you changed the one sketch?
No, it won't because of the way that I made these. So. helps if I turn that. So digital was a yes or no?
No.
No. Okay. Lintsec we want to try. So here we go. Sketches, edit sketch, and VA3 FUC. I almost said FUK.
Never mind. I tried to get FUK. The FUK it was taken.
I'm not sure I love what it's doing with the 3 there. That's a little funky.
That's normal with any 3 you do.
So let's see what else we had here. We had this one. That would work.
Yep.
So let's try and modify it. Sketch. Edit text.
Van Halen?
What happened there? Apparently, it does not like the letter number 3.
Really?
That's interesting.
VA.
I've got the 3 in there, and it has. So I guess that font just ruled itself out.
Yep.
Okay. Nope, that was a no-go. Hanaflex was kind of a no.
Well, we're not using the O, so would that really matter then?
Okay, well, let's check out Neo. Well, did you even like Neo Latina? Well, let's go back. That would put this one potentially back on the table.
Yep.
All right. So, good point. So here's our problem.
Interesting.
Yeah. That's not going to work. Wow. Just wow.
I wonder what number. Let's have some fun with this, okay? Instead of using VA3, put VA4, VA5. Let's see what it does for those. Like when you put that
it's gonna do more clip art stuff.
Weird.
So this would work.
Yeah. Don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah, it's kind of like a calculator look.
Yeah.
I thought it was worth trying. This one did work. That one very much did not.
So we should just leave that out of there. We don't need Van Halen.
So we'll delete that one. Delete it. And what other ones didn't work here? That one worked.
That one
very much did not.
Yeah. VA robot.
Robot face. Yeah. So this one we haven't tried to edit yet.
I'm not sure what Kilroy's saying, but he said wingdings.
Yes, that's the word I was looking for earlier.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. And there we go again. Another one bites the dust. Another one.
Boom. Are you making sure you're not hitting the hitting shift when you're typing in that 3?
It's possible I am actually. Okay.
Another one bites the dust. Bum.
All right. No. Let's go back and let's just make sure. That I'm not, because there's the 3, just like it's supposed to be there. But let's try Shift 3 and see what the nope.
Okay, so it shows up properly.
Yeah. So this is the text, and that's the output. So that is a no-go.
Yeah.
So that's Felonia gets deleted. So Linsec worked.
This is the one we're going to try now. next?
I thought this is the one we were just experimenting with.
Well, only way to find out, just go back and. Now, is there a shortcut for that? Just to go into edit? Yep, that's the one that doesn't work.
FFP. What the?
FFP, who knows?
Yep. So Neo Latina just got deleted. Ooh, oh.
Now, could you download stencils just specifically for?
So these
Fusion?
were fonts that I went and got all of these as free fonts and imported them.
Oh, okay.
And brought them in order to be able to do this. And I spent a fair bit of time doing that, playing around. I played around with other fonts too, of course. One does not go on a great font search and not. This is getting ridiculous here. Wow. I am losing faith in font designers everywhere. This may be part and parcel of the fact that these are free fonts.
Yeah.
And another one bites the dust. That's Permatex gone. Oh boy. So let's see. Does Cutouts work? This is our what? It's finished. Cutouts works.
Okay.
So finish sketch.
Now.
So these are your options, and they're basically a wider variant or a more compressed variant. And I think this one's probably more realistic for fitting on your sign, unless you want a really big sign.
Oh, let's go with the small.
I don't like the spacing here either between the V and the A.
Yeah. Now, is there a way to space those or no?
No. Well, yes. I could make them as two separate elements and then move them together.
Yeah.
But part of this is how, let's put it this way, fonts are an afterthought here. And I think going forward in the future, we're going to see that be less of a case. I think we're going to see CAD software have to change that simply because of the 3D design capabilities and the fact that we're looking at additive manufacturing. But essentially what they're doing here is they're using the silhouette and then they're trying to extrude it, and it's not the neatest way to deal with fonts. Actually, a program that deals with the few fonts that it does have fairly well would be Tinkercad. Tinkercad actually has a feature to round over the edges on the fonts, which is fantastic when you're doing something like 3D printing, because you're trying to inset something and you have it round over. To do that in Fusion 360 or another CAD program, I've got to go in and apply a fillet to all of the back faces in order to try to round them off, and you will end up with all kinds of errors and stuff because it's trying to do the math and calculate it.
Yeah.
Whereas Tinkercad's just sort of chosen a couple of fonts that work, and they support those fonts and only those fonts. So you've got very little selection in terms of fonts, but the ones that it has, you can do some interesting things with. But you've got less placement ability in that. This is something where CAD programs could do a little bit better. One thing I sort of actually look for is a blend between a CAD program and a traditional vector editor. So essentially merging some of the capabilities of, say, Illustrator or Inkscape into something like Fusion 360, so that you've got a little bit more capability of dealing with just the vector drawing as a starting point for some things. It's interesting. I don't think you'll ever see that in a professional CAD tool, but as a user tool for laser engraving, for all kinds of other stuff, that would be really good.
Maybe Blender might come up with something like that.
I don't know. So right now, there's actually the world of laser work is and plasma CNC is kind of a little weird because you're doing kind of a 2D development cycle of things, and you're exporting an SVG. The only way to do that with any kind of measurement ability is to do it in a CAD software, which doesn't really deal with the two-dimensional drawings all that well sometimes. Or you try to go into something like Illustrator, and you don't have the layout and measurement tools that you do for patterning and stuff like that. Like I could see a realm for kind of a cross-boundary tool. That'd be interesting. Okay, so we have a positive. What we're looking for here is a negative cutout of this.
Now, would we want to do this before or after we make the box?
Well, actually, do you have dimensions on the front face of that box right now?
I can easily pull those up with using the handy-dandy magic tool that we all carry around with us.
Yep.
If you don't have one, get a pair of calipers.
Yep.
They're your magical tool. And they're great for breaking ice, too.
Not.
Or killing somebody, whichever you want to prefer to think of it as. Okay, so according to my calipers, this is bigger than my calipers. Shoot.
Not unsurprising. Let's start off with the height measurement, which will be within the size of calipers.
Width, I got 90, 25.
90.25?
So 90.3.
Okay, I put in 90.25 because that's what you said.
Just put in 90. I would just put 90 for short. Because you got to remember that 3D printing is always adds a little bit more than what the size
you probably
is.
did. You're probably right. It was probably 90. I'm going to guess that your other dimension there is probably something along the lines of 120.
Well, my calipers go to 150, so I'm thinking probably 200.
Yeah. I was totally wrong with 200. You wouldn't happen to have a ruler with actually, you know what? Just measure to the midpoint. The rough eyeball of the midpoint, that'll get us close. That'll get us within 5 millimeters.
Okay. Middle point, you saying?
Yeah, so just like if you measure from one end to what you feel is the center.
87.
87, so 85 times 2 would be 170.
Okay.
But
does it have to be that size? I mean, we can make it bigger if we wanted to, correct?
We could. I was just wondering if we could get away with making a front plate to fit that one, which we can probably do, actually. Just have to change the scaling of the lettering. And so let's see here. Sketch.
FUC. Oh, okay. It looked like it said UU. I was like, what?
Sketch. Wow, gee, that looks about the right size, doesn't it?
Yep.
So, is there any radiusing on that current plate?
No.
No, just flat.
Just flat.
How does it attach?
What, the red part?
No, the black. So basically, you don't even need to replace the red part. It's black. Oh, they've got. Oh, I see. That's quite. Don't. Right, that's not simple. Why would it be simple?
Because we're going to redesign it to be simple.
Let's see. There's
There's no copy that says I can't use this filler. So
yeah. Well, no, the filler is just the color plate.
it's meant to diffuse the coloring.
Yes, but the letters themselves are cut out in black plastic, so that's the part we've got to modify.
Yeah.
Oops. And it's not too happy about me not finishing the sketch. So
I wonder if we do something. Just hear me out. Instead of it just having VA3 FUC, what if it had, say, the station a little bit higher, so it's like, say, right up here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
And then at the bottom, it just says radio station or amateur station.
You're probably going to end up with a problem of being a little bit small, but it's certainly possible. So
we can make it bigger, right?
So if are we going to start from scratch here and make our own?
Yeah, why don't we do that? That sounds like the best way to do it.
So shortcuts, rectangle. I want to do a center rectangle. So this will make this easy. Even 90 to 180. So that gives us lots of surface area. And then text. EA3 FUC. We're going to get old.
And I just got some information passed down to me. Just give me a moment.
That was our shoot.
Ah, okay, cool. Sorry, I'm just getting some information was just sent to me.
Do tell.
Spiritfield.
Cutouts was the name of our font. That is not what I wanted to do. So you're thinking something along these lines here that I can do. You are, or, well, you are. That's what I thought. Amateur. So going for lights. And I don't know if you see what I'm doing here. I'm setting the sizes of everything. I'm doing this as separate pieces of text so that I can manipulate the spacing a little bit more. One thing I could do if I wanted to was do VA3 and FUC as separate ones as well, because that would allow me to space them apart a little bit if I wanted to. It's just a design consideration. It's enough. And move that roughly into place. Spacing. So something like that is what you're thinking, Ron?
Let me go back to my screen. If we could put amateur and radio under that.
Under what?
As one together.
Oh, you want them on one line? Okay.
Yeah, if we can. I don't know if it'll be too much or if it'll be.
No, probably not. That's doable.
Sorry, I had two people just passed an exam today, so I'm just congratulating them. It was just
Congratulations.
put out to our. It was just let us. The email just came out to us today.
Okay.
So I was like, "Oh, okay."
So you've got some new hammy people.
No, one guy just recently passed his. One girl passed her amateur radio exam for basics,
Nice.
and the other guy passed his advanced amateur radio licensee.
Nice. And just in case you think I have nothing to do with radio here, folks, I actually hold a rather old license, which I'm not sure hasn't been struck from the books, but it was supposed to be a lifetime license. I have I got a radio telephone operators restricted land, aeronautical, and maritime license.
So you got your RMAC, I think it is, or
I'm not sure what they've converted it to. The ministry at the time that was um, awarded has apparently been kind of there was a big cleaning of house after that. So
yeah, I've noticed that
I
myself.
still have my radio. I still have my radio license. I have my number. So far as I understand, that license is still valid.
You may be able to transfer that to amateur radio with no problem whatsoever.
Probably. I had to learn the 10 codes and all of that. But at this point in time, they might try to make me take a new test. And then, frankly, I haven't used it very much. But it's been almost 20 years.
Well, we gotta fix that then. We gotta get you back on the radio.
I'm more interested in this stuff at the moment, really. But
It's always a good hobby to have. Trust me. Another hobby that spends more of your money,
yeah, no.
like 3D printing does.
No, I have a couple of hobbies that are quite expensive. One of them is buying China a few parts at a time.
Keeping ChinaEmployee.com.
And some people will say, "Oh, you're terrible for not supporting local businesses." I can't support local businesses.
Because the local businesses don't care what we're looking for.
They were closed. So, like recently, it's like okay, one of the only places that we have to go for electronics parts here in Ontario is Seattle Electronics, and or the really crappy little New Tech Electronics in Hamilton, which I can't understand why they're not dead. Like went in there looking for some really basic stuff, and they didn't have it. I think it exists simply because it's there, but every time I've ever gone there for something in particular, 9 out of 10 they don't have it. They're too small. And even Seattle doesn't carry enough stuff. And one of the big problems I have with electronics stores in Canada, they've got nothing online. I can't buy from them online.
Yep.
It is so dang and their hours were almost the same as my previous work. There was like 1 hour difference between my old job and this job. And
the one thing that I really hated about the companies out here in Canada, and I think I speak with a kind of an evil thing, is that I miss Radio Shack.
I don't. Radio Shack was the Walmart of its day. They dominated the market, and then they got out of the market. Well, so they put all of the little radio component stores and electronic stores out of business. They dominated the whole market, and then once they had total and complete utter control, they decided that the market wasn't expanding anymore. In fact, it was shrinking, and they got entirely out of carrying components and parts entirely.
And that's where I think they made their mistake, was getting out of that.
I don't think it was a mistake. I think it was the choice that made sense for their business at the time, because it was a shrinking market. That old class of electronics person had disappeared. The market had changed. They didn't see any point in investing new money into something that was shrinking and dying. And from a business perspective, I get that. But anybody who tells me that I'm harming local businesses, I'm sorry, the local businesses don't offer what I need. They don't have the stuff. I can't get to them, or they don't make it available online. It's like, uh, I hate buying little tiny components from China, but it's the only damn place I can get them. And if I buy them off Amazon, I'm still sending my money to the same damn place because it's the same Chinese sellers. I'm just paying 10 times more for the same thing. And it's going to take just as long to get here. So I end up buying off AliExpress all the time. I have perpetually anywhere from 30 to 50 orders in transit from AliExpress. And because they take 3 months to get here, that's not really saying a lot. And, you know, it could be this little tiny component or this little tiny piece or this little chunk for a 3D printer. And it is what it is. But to, you know, support local, yeah, I'm going to pay 10 times more to be massively inconvenienced to go to a store that 9 out of 10 doesn't have what I want. What? Or I can sit here at 3 in the morning when I'm still up because I can't sleep, and I can go through it. Hey, there's the diodes I need. Yep, no problem.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's like I love the Radio Shack for those little odd things I could not find anywhere else before the internet.
Yeah, before the internet.
Yeah.
The
But a lot
reality.
of times, I used to walk into Radio Shack and say, "Do you sell this switch?" Boom, get it right away, and I had it immediately. I didn't have to wait 3 weeks for it to come from China.
Well, and our idea of what switches were available, like we kind of knew about 4 or 5 different switches. There were always hundreds, but we only knew of 4 or 5 because that's what Radio Shack carried.
Yeah.
So you went in looking for the switch that Radio Shack carried, and lo and behold, you got it, or you got something very similar to it. Whereas now, when I do a project and I want, I can get a 12 millimeter, a 16 millimeter, 19 millimeter, 22 millimeter, anodized black metal push button with a glowing LED ring in my choice of red, green, blue, yellow, and I can specify exactly I want this to be a 110 volt switch. So therefore, they'll put the diodes in it so that the resistors in it so that the LED will work off 120 volts without me having to go and deal with that on my own. And they'll ship it to me, shipping included, for like $2.30. No brainer. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's just like we have to pick and choose our battles here. We have to decide what makes sense in a retail capacity here. And one of the problems is it just doesn't make sense to pay a human being to sit there and do the modification to that switch. Now, even China's gotten smart. There are PCB manufacturers where if you're putting in your order for these custom boards, you think that's being entirely made by some human? No. The pick and place robot's being programmed to do it. A human might do some final inspection, might do a little tiny bit of soldering on it, but that company that you're buying your 5 PCB boards for $5, that's being made by a machine. And when you create your work order, you're actually you're doing all the programming for them for the pick and place machine. If we did that kind of stuff here, we might still have businesses, but we didn't make those innovations. We're allowing China to do that. And that's why we're. But I do thank COVID for something, and I know I just said the evil word, sorry. I think that we are finally going to see some proper medical manufacturing. We're going to see some mandate here and some emphasis on supporting certain local manufacturing. Like every country or region needs to have their own supplier of ventilators. They might not be the best in the market, but we can't have a situation again where we can't get a ventilator. because some other country is blocking it.
Yeah.
I think that in of itself opens up a debate that we need to have. There are some things that we need not to allow go to the global market, and then there are other things that just aren't worth it. Making the small electronics components and stuff like that, the margins aren't there for us anymore. We can't do it on the salaries that we have, and without the with massive investment in robotics and getting there. It's like, if somebody wants to do it, somebody thinks they can do it, by all means do it, please. But
Yeah.
Otherwise, I think we have to say that that's sort of a lost battle and pick a battle that's worth fighting.
Yep. No, I agree with you. But anyways, we've reached our 1 hour mark.
So I don't know if anybody wants to continue on this here.
Well, I think we'll call it a day.
We definitely got off topic, and I apologize for that.
Yeah. We're going to look at this again. We've already got the idea of where we want to put the amateur radio, so we have an idea of where we're going to be putting this. So the next step would be figuring out the walls, figuring out how high we want it, figuring out where we're going to put it in a switch, because in this version, it has no switch. You have to pull the plug to turn it off.
Oh yeah, we can totally.
So let's wire in a switch, wire a hole for a switch, wire a hole for our parts, and at least make it better. But I think we got our front facing what we want right now. What do you think for that?
Not quite. It's not doing what I want it to do at the moment, which is actually cut this. I don't know what I've done wrong.
But you know what? We can always come back and look at this again.
Oh, I'll get this sorted out.
Yeah.
Objects to cut.
It seems to be giving you a warning issue on the side there.
Oh, it didn't have the profile plane. That's why.
Ah.
It didn't know where it was cutting from, so that would be part of the problem. Taper angle, one side, distance. What the hell is going on? Oh.
Did you not extrude this?
I extruded the plate, and then I'm trying to actually extrude. There we go. That looks a little bit more like it, but I want to cut. Oh, and now it's gone funky again. I don't know what it's doing here.
Oh, well. We'll just leave it at that for now. So anyways, everybody.
Yep.
Thank you for watching. So until next time with me and Barrett, and we figured out how this all works, we're going to say goodbye, everybody. Have yourselves a great night, and thank you for watching.
Bye, guys.